The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast. We're talking NFL Week 5 and all the NFL news to go with it, as well as baseball playoffs. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast.
From Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network, you're listening to the Sports Stove podcast with your host, Vince Stover.
Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up in me?
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove podcast, presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. And I just realized we haven't changed the screen yet, Dad. We've got a new promo code for Righteous Felon. The code is STOVE15. It's STOVE15. If you go to righteousfelon.com, you can get some of your own jerky. I've been trying different flavors this week. Let's see here. I got the Nelson Mandela right here. This is a cracked pepper and dill. I tried the Darth garlic yesterday, and had my favorite Baby Blues barbecue this afternoon for a snack. So go out and find your own favorite flavor, righteousfelon.com. Use that promo code STOVE15 to get 15% off your purchase there. And I need to remember to change that on the screen. You can use the code BELLYUP if you want to, but STOVE15 is the new code for righteousfelon.com. I'm your host, Vince Stover, and my dad, Dale Stover, joins me as well. Dad, how you doing?
Doing good. Boy, a lot going on here. Baseball and football, and just, of course, hockey starting, all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, NBA. I mean, there's NBA news as they're all reporting to camp. Hockey's going preseason. There's NASCAR playoffs. There's plenty of things happening right now for sure. Of course, football is the biggest of stories, but there are plenty of things to talk about in baseball, of course, as well. We'll talk about both of those things today. Last week, we were unable due to scheduling stuff, unable to do a show, so we missed out last week. And I know we had millions of fans wondering where we were, but we're back. It's okay. Settle in and enjoy the show here this evening. Let's start with the NFL, kind of looking back a little bit at last week's game. And we got to start on Thursday night. The Lions put a whooping on the Green Bay Packers. Of course, the excuse that we have is two starting offensive linemen out, the third one getting injured during the game, Aaron Jones coming back from injury, and all kinds of other things. The reality is the Lions look good. The Packers did not. And it seems like, Dad, the issues that the Packers have, and I'm still overly optimistic about the Packers, but it seems like the issues they have are the ones we knew they were going to have. Some defensive questions. Joe Barry, is he the guy for the job as the DC? And then the offensive line was a question mark, honestly, heading into the season anyhow. Young receivers is still a question, but they've shown that they've got the talent. There's a little bit of inconsistency and some rookie mistakes, but overall, especially getting Christian Watson back, things should start to even out a little bit there. But I still think Jordan Love has been just fine. I know he has not been perfect, but I haven't lost any confidence in Jordan Love. How are you feeling about Green Bay after that beatdown on Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, it was disappointing losing to the Lions, but we're going to lose some games this year. We've won, close ones. We lost a close one. And, we've had a lot of injuries early, and we're getting some of those people back, may have almost everybody back for Monday night. So we'll see. Again, the young receivers have done well. I think Jordan Love has done well. I mean, obviously he'll make some mistakes, but I think he showed he can rally the team and bring the team back. And the defense, has to be fixed, and they vowed that they're going to do that, whatever they have to do. And if they can get that fixed, the offensive line, like I said, Elton Jenkins will be back this week, and I think it'll gel together depending on injuries. So I think the Packers are still in good shape. We said it when they go to the bye, if they could be at least 3-2 or 4-1. Well, they won't be 4-1. They could be 3-2 if they can win this week, and then they'll have time to get even healthier. And the way the NFC's going, I think we're still in good shape.
Well, yeah, the way the NFC North is going, we're definitely in good shape. I mean, sure, the Lions have won a couple games, but Minnesota and Chicago, Chicago's nothing. Minnesota still has a lot of talent, but nonetheless, they've not been playing that great. So, yeah, I think as the NFC North goes, Green Bay's still definitely in the hunt there. You hate to see them lose at home, especially in prime time, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We knew we weren't going to have a perfect season. And like I said, still full confidence in Jordan Love, especially as Aaron Jones and Christian Watson get healthier. That's going to help as well. Do you think the Packers go out and try to get an offensive lineman via trade, or do you think they're just going to stick it out with what they got?
I think they're okay. With what they have. Again, health is the issue. I don't know that where Runyon is for this week. There's still a little question, I think, at center. But again, they've got good depth there, and it's helped them so far. So I think if Jenkins comes back healthy, I don't know that they'll go out and get anyone. It probably would depend who's available. And, depend where we're at on injuries. But there's still some backups. There's been questions about the left guard, Newman. Ryan may get a shot this week. He's looked good in training camp. So, they're still fairly deep there if we can get everybody back from injury, and it looks like they're headed that way.
Yeah, the one name that I'm hearing as potential is actually Cincinnati Bengals current right tackle, Jonah Williams. He was left tackle last season. This year they acquired Orlando Brown. Jonah Williams wants to play left tackle. He's still fairly young. He's talented, all that kind of stuff. So I've heard that name pop up as potential for Green Bay. I'd like to see it, honestly. I'd like to see him go out and get somebody because I don't know. And maybe this isn't a Super Bowl year, so maybe it's not worth it. But I still want to protect Aaron Jones. I still want to protect Jordan Love. And I don't think the guys we have on the roster, I think they're fine, but I don't think they're 17 games fine. I think they're a fill-in fine. I don't really want them starting all season long. So, but maybe they're young, so maybe this is what they need to learn, and maybe they'll be future left tackles and whatnot. But anyways, I'd like to see things change. I need to take back something, Dad. I need to take back anything I've ever said good about Tua Tagovailoa. I started to get melted into this. No, he must be good. They're putting up all these. They scored 70. It's got to be Tua. Tua's got to be good. Then they come out against a real team this week, and I was reminded, nope, I was right all along. Tua stinks. I don't think Tua stinks, but I'm not a Tua believer, and because of this weekend, I was reminded why. Buffalo beats them by 28 points. The largest flip, by the way, Dad, in points won versus points lost in back-to-back weeks in NFL history after winning by 50 and then losing by 28. That being said, Miami's still a threat, but the Bills, to me, prove they're the best team in the AFC.
Yes, I mean, we thought the Bills would be, and they've really bounced back, and they showed what they had. So I don't think Miami is in any panic because, again, I think this was one of the best teams in the AFC they lost to. So, right. I don't think Miami's going to slide away at this point, and I think Tua will be just fine. We'll see.
He'll be fine, sure, but he ain't going to be Josh Allen. He's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's just going to be fine, and that's not what they drafted him to be. That being said, I agree with you. I don't think the Dolphins are worried necessarily. I just think it proves where the Bills are compared to where the Lions are. Let's see here. 28-7 sounds like a pretty safe lead late in the third quarter for most people, but not for Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. Leading 28-7. They fall to the lowly Denver Broncos of all people. Come back. I saw the score and I thought, well, good for Justin Fields. This will maybe take some heat off of this team a little bit. Instead, all it said was Matt Eberflus is going to get fired. Who are they going to bring in for the next coach? Is Justin Fields the quarterback? Are they going to go out and get Caleb Williams with the first pick and Marvin Harrison Jr. with the second pick? What will the Bears look like next year? All these questions are back in the fold because They blew a 28-7 lead and lost to the Broncos. Are the Bears tanking, or do they just stink?
I think they're just not very good. I don't think they're tanking at this point. Again, looks like they've got a good shot at the first pick the way things are going. But no, I don't think they're tanking. But I think reality is starting to set in that this is really going to be a tough year, I'm afraid, for the Bears. And Justin Fields, it's hard to evaluate him. I've heard a lot about that.
True.
I mean, is he really not a good quarterback? I mean, we all thought he was coming out, or is it just the situation that he's in? I mean, I think he's still got great potential, but the Bears are going to have to do something to really turn their direction around. So we'll see.
Yeah, somebody's going to get fortunate with Justin Fields. If they really finish out the season as bad as they look like they are, and they go out and draft Caleb Williams, making Justin Fields available, someone's going to get him. They're going to get him cheap, and they're going to show maybe Denver, possibly, I don't know, New England, someone like that. And I think they're going to show everybody that, yeah, the coaching staff in Chicago, the GM in Chicago, really set up Fields to fail, and that's the reason why he looks as bad as he does. How about the AFC South? What a fun conference this has turned out to be. The Colts, the Texans, the Jaguars, and the Titans are all 2-2 after 4 weeks. The rookie quarterbacks for the Colts and the Texans have both been pretty solid. Anthony Richardson, of course, and CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, by the way, has been very fantasy relevant, and I appreciate that very much so. And so that's been solid. The Jaguars have kind of underperformed overall, I think, at the very least. And the Titans, they just won't go away. I look at this conference right now, and I don't think there's a clear favorite in this conference. I think there should be in Jacksonville, but they have not been that. I'm intrigued to see how this conference shakes down. How do you feel specifically about Indianapolis and Houston right now?
Well, Indianapolis and Houston have both been surprising because, again, they have rookie quarterbacks, but they're doing well. And, again, they're in a conference that will maybe help them a little bit. But conference games, as we have said, is always a challenge, and or division games. And that's the way it's going to be here with these four teams could stay pretty close. I do think Jacksonville could stretch it out a little bit. I think they are probably the better team talent-wise. Like you said, Tennessee won't go away. But both Indianapolis and Houston have been surprises, have been enjoyable to see. Both have new head coaches and both have potentially good head coaches. So, it's made the season very interesting so far.
Tennessee, by the way, 3-1 against the spread. They have kept games close. They have been right there the whole time. Jacksonville has a second game in a row now in London this week. We'll see how that goes. Indianapolis 0-2 at home, but 2-0 on the road, 2-1 in the conference, which is wild. And like I said, CJ Stroud, I'm just so impressed with him. He's looking great. His team has rallied around him as well. The Texans look like they're a threat even this year in the AFC South. I don't think any of these teams are a threat for the Super Bowl at this point, but I think that all of these teams are a threat for the division as it currently is going. So we'll see how that all shakes down. Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I think they're all a threat right now at this point for the division. We'll see when we get a little over the midway point. Somebody may have stretched it out, but no, I think it looks like there could be a very tightly contested division. Like you said, I don't know that anybody's a Super Bowl team unless Jacksonville really, changes here a little bit.
Titans beat the Bengals 27-3 this week. You're up in the Cincinnati area. Is the world coming to an end up there for the Bengals?
I think people are very concerned. There's no doubt about that. I really was watching that game, which I did. I really think it's the Bengals not playing well, maybe as well as the Titans playing good. Of course, Derrick Henry is always going to be a factor, and if you can't handle him, then it's going to be tough. And the Bengals I don't know if Burrow's as healthy as he should be. But, their offensive line, even the defense, has not performed like, you would think they would. So yeah, Cincinnati, again, it's early in the season, so they have a couple games they can get back in this. But, no, they've not been the juggernaut so far that we thought they would be.
Some fun close games throughout the weekend. Chiefs and Jets came down to a close one. Chargers and Raiders was close. Eagles and Commanders went to overtime as well. There's also was some blowouts, and may I just continue to invite people all aboard the Baker train. Baker Mayfield and the Bucks 26-9 against the Saints. And I'll tell you what, these Buccaneers, here's the way I view them, Dad. I don't view them as Super Bowl threats, but I view them as the team in the playoffs that no one really was going to want to play. They're annoying. They shouldn't be as good as they are, yet they are as good as they are. They go on bye this week, but Baker for 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception in the game. Chris Godwin went off, 8 catches, 114 yards, and I think that especially helped by the injury to Mike Evans, although I think he'll be back for their next game. The Saints continue to struggle. Derek Carr, average to below average in this game, especially. Alvin Kamara made his first game of the season, 13 catches, 33 yards though, and 11 rushes for 51 yards. I think the Saints are still trying to figure out who they are, whereas I think the Buccaneers got it figured out who they are. And as long as they stay healthy, I think they're going to continue to be a thorn in the side of many teams along the ways. And then, Dad, your Dallas Cowboys absolutely dominated the Patriots, sending Bill Belichick into retirement, some think, at the very least. So the Cowboys with an impressive win last week as well. But enough about last week. Let's get into this week. And we're going to get into our pick 6. Last week, we submitted our picks, and you can as well. We're doing a weekly pick contest through runyourpool.com. You can find the information on Twitter and jump right in and pick games as well. Last week, Dad was 2 and 4. I was 4 and 2 on the week. And so we're going to get into our games this week. We always pick primetime games, and then we're going to pick an additional 3 games, pick 6 games total here as well. So let me get mine pulled up real quick. All right, Thursday night, the Washington Commanders host the Chicago Bears. Washington is a 6.5-point favorite. I tell you, I personally would love to see that number a little lower, maybe in the 4.5 to 3.5 range. I'm still going to take the Commanders because I just think the Commanders have played pretty solid, while the Bears, outside of this last week, have looked pretty pathetic. I think the Commanders are pretty disciplined team, so I think they can win by a touchdown. How do you feel about that game?
Yes, I think especially with the Commanders being at home. And again, things are not going to get better for Chicago. And, you can say, well, they played, a close game last week, but they were playing the Broncos. Right. And the Broncos came back. That's one thing to blow that lead. It's another thing to blow that lead to a team, that's struggling also. So now, again, the Commanders, I don't know that they're going to challenge for their division. But I think being at home, again, it's a little bit of a high number, but I think they can easily win by a touchdown or more because, again, they've got potential to have a really good defense. And, again, their offense shouldn't have any trouble with Chicago. So, I'll go with Washington easily on that one.
See, I don't say easily, but I do pick them, feeling like that's something that should happen. That being said, who knows? We'll see how it all shakes down. Justin Fields has 861 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the year. Sam Howell has 961 yards, only 4 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions on the year as well. If Sam Howell can start cleaning things up a little bit, they would have won some of these games that they've lost so far because they've been in them every single week as well. Let's see here. Let's head down to Sunday Night Football. It is San Francisco hosting Dallas. What an interesting game this is going to be. I think it's going to be a lot of fun as well. I had kind of a hard time picking this game. Let me hear what you got. San Francisco is 3.5-point favorites against Dallas?
I didn't have a lot of trouble picking this game. Again, it's at home, so I think San Francisco. Dallas has played well, with the exception of that Arizona game, but San Francisco has been really solid, and I don't see any reason. Again, Dallas' defense is going to have to really play good, but San Francisco's got a great defense. So I think being at home, if this was a Dallas, I might have to think about it a little bit, but 3.5, I'll go with San Francisco.
Interesting. I'm going to go San Francisco as well, but man, I of course am not as quick to jump on this as you are. Neither team has really turned the ball over this year. Prescott has 1 interception. Brock Purdy has 0. Run game for San Francisco has been far better than Dallas's. Pass game's been pretty close to equal. So I'm going with San Francisco based on their defense, although the Dallas defense has been relatively solid this year as well. And I'm a big fan of Dan Quinn, and I think he should get the Chargers job at the end of this year. But I'm going to ride Christian McCaffrey and San Francisco's defense this week, and I'll go with San Francisco. Monday night, Green Bay Packers, 1.5-point favorite on the road in Vegas. Is that really on the road, even though it's in Vegas? I'm not sure, but 1.5-point favorites against Vegas. I'm going to go Green Bay. I'd like to think they're going to fix some of the issues they had last week, even with the injuries that they have. I'd like to think Aaron Jones is going to get things going in the run game. And with Christian Watson being back a full another week, that they'll start hooking up, and that'll help things as well. So I'll go Packers -1.5.
Yes, I'll take the Packers also. Vegas has Devontae Adams. Outside of that, they've got a lot of problems. And so if Green Bay, this would be a good chance for Green Bay to get back on track. I think they are going to have some more players available this time. They have the bye coming up next week. From there. And, Green Bay always has a lot of fans on the road, and they'll have a lot of fans out in Vegas. I don't have any doubt about that. I'll go with Green Bay over Vegas. Again, I've never been I like Devontae Adams. In some ways, I never had problems with the Raiders, but I think they have a bad coach, and I think it's going to continue to show.
I feel like we should just go. We should go to Vegas. We'll fly out Sunday after church and be there for the game Monday. We got friends out there. I'm sure we can find a place to stay. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. We'll talk about it. Okay. Maybe Righteous Felon Jerky will send us out there and to cover it. Okay. Let's get into the rest of our games. We got to pick 3 games this week. And by the way, this will be my first week actually watching Troy Aikman and Joe Buck on ABC and Monday Night Football, as I have not watched any of the Monday night games up to this point. So I'm excited to hear their voices again. All right, who's the first game of your random pick that you're going with?
There's a lot of interesting picks this week, but I'm going to go with Baltimore, a 3.5 favorite over Pittsburgh, even though Pittsburgh's at home. Pittsburgh, has struggled a little bit, and I think Baltimore's got things going in the right direction. So I'll go with the Ravens over the Steelers, 3.5.
I'm beginning to think that my hot streak of picks is about to end because I'm picking the same games as you. So Baltimore, 3.5-point favorite. I as well picked them. Kenny Pickett banged up. Good chance Mitch Trubisky's starting this week. And I think that probably helps Pittsburgh a little bit. But that being said, Baltimore's looked really sharp thus far. Man, on the road division game, I typically wouldn't pick this, but I feel like it's the right time. So I got Baltimore -3.5 as well. Who's the next game you got?
I will take, again, it's a favor, but it's a road team, Kansas City, 5.5 over the Vikings. Again, I think the Vikings got problems. Kansas City is really kind of rolling, and being on the road won't be any problem for them there. So I'll go with Kansas City, 5.5 over the Vikings.
I almost picked the Vikings this week. I ended up not picking this game. Listen, Minnesota's defense is no good. Their O-line isn't great, but one thing that we've been able to see from Minnesota in the past is they can put up points, and I think they might be able to hang. Kansas City is not – you got them at the point in the season where they're not fully invested yet. They got all the Taylor Swift noise around them and all these other things going on. Now's the time to get Kansas City, or at the very least, stay close with them. I almost went with Minnesota in that game, but I chose to stay away from that one. I went instead, Dad. I've got 2 underdogs to finish up my picks. I'll start with the New York Jets. They're 1.5-point underdogs on the road in Denver. I don't think Denver's got it figured out. I think there's probably more controversy in Denver than there is on any locker room in the league right now. The Jets have this rally cry going on right now with Zach Wilson. I don't think Zach Wilson's the answer by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they get their run game going here. And so I'm going to go with the New York Jets over Denver, and I'll go ahead and take that 1.5 points as well. Who's the last game that you got this week?
I'll go with an underdog on this one, and road underdog. Houston Texans over Atlanta. Atlanta's a 1.5 favorite, or 1.5 favorite, and I think Houston's going to do well. I think Atlanta's struggling, and this be a good chance for Houston to say they're on the roll.
I was doing so good with my picks this year, Dad. I'm with you. I got Houston as well. I don't think Desmond Ritter's it in Atlanta. I think they've got a lot of pieces in place. If they get the right quarterback, if I were them, I'd start making phone calls, honestly. I mean, I think a Kirk Cousins in Atlanta changes the way Atlanta's outcome is. And I know that's making me sound like this huge Kirk Cousins supporter. The reality is with those weapons, a quarterback should be successful in Atlanta right now. And I think they need to make a change sooner rather than later. They've got, don't they have Taylor Heineke, I think, as a backup? So maybe we see him come in, or no, Mariota. I don't remember. Whoever's there, maybe we see things happen in Atlanta. But I love what C.J. Stroud's doing in Houston. The weapons that he has, especially the receivers. Nico Collins has been great so far. Dalton Schultz is starting to show up at tight end. They get 2 of their tackles back from injury this week. I like that setup, and even though it's on the road, it's in a dome, and I just think that takes away part of the home field advantage. So I'm going to go Houston as well, 1.5 point underdogs. Let's run through the rest of the games real quick. Jacksonville and Buffalo, Buffalo favorite at home, 5.5. I almost went with Buffalo here. I like what Jacksonville has, but I'm telling you, they just haven't shown up yet. I think Buffalo is a great team as well, being at home. I think Buffalo wins this game.
Yes, yeah, I think Buffalo will too. I think that's where, Buffalo showed they're good. Again, Jacksonville, this is in London, so you never know what's going to happen there. And it's kind of a home game for the Jaguars since they've hung out there they're there every year and hung out. But this would be a great chance for the Jaguars to make a statement. But I think the Bills are rolling. So it may be a really good game. We'll see.
I'm glad you reminded me of that. With it being in London, Jacksonville actually has a huge support in London because they've been there so often. This might be the one game where Buffalo doesn't have the advantage. Usually these London games are lower scoring games as well. Buffalo, I still like them overall, though. Indianapolis hosts Tennessee. Tennessee's 3-1 against the spread this year, but this spread is currently at 0.5. So basically, Tennessee has to win or tie to cover. I think Indianapolis is the better team. They're at home. I'm cheering for Indianapolis. So I guess I'm picking Indianapolis to win this game. But Tennessee, I don't like Tennessee. I don't trust Tennessee. But they are always in games. And maybe Derrick Henry runs wild this week. How do you feel about Indianapolis, Tennessee?
Yeah, it's a big game for the Colts because this being a division game and being a home game, they can really set themselves up to stay in the race here. So I think it'll be a very interesting game to watch, and we'll see, how good Indianapolis is.
The Kitty Cats come to play in Detroit this week. Detroit Lions versus Carolina Panthers. Detroit 8.5-point favorite. Listen, Carolina, I don't dislike Carolina, but they're not good. They're not getting the same flack that Chicago's getting because they didn't have the hype that Chicago had coming into the year. Carolina's not good. Detroit wins this game. I don't know that they win by 8.5, but they do win this game at the very least.
Yeah, Carolina's not been good so far. So this should be able to keep the hype train going in Detroit, and we'll see how that goes.
New England hosts New Orleans. New England's 1-3, but they're a 1.5-point favorite. The quarterback situation in New England's not good. It's not pretty. The coaching situation's not pretty. I think New Orleans gets the win here against New England and sends the Patriots into a full tailspin. How do you feel about that game?
I think this is one of the games of the week you don't worry about paying attention to. I don't think anything draws you to this game at all. I think it could hurt either team. Like you said, I think either team could go into a tailspin with a loss here. New England's at home, so we'll see.
Yeah, New Orleans could be another spot for Dan Quinn at the end of this year as well if things don't go smoothly in New Orleans. Miami, 10.5-point favorites over the Giants. You talk about an utter failure of a season 4 weeks in. The Giants have been just that. Daniel Jones has not lived up to the contract. Miami, on the other hand, has put up points for the most part. They ran into a buzzsaw in Buffalo. 10.5's a lot, but Miami can put up points being at home. I'll go Miami all the way on this one.
Yes, yeah, Miami should handle it. The Giants are really in trouble there, no doubt about it.
Philadelphia is on the road, but not really a road game. It's against the Rams in Los Angeles. Philadelphia, 4.5-point favorites. By the way, Dad, the Rams are the only team that are undefeated against the spread. 3-0-1. They had one push. So think of that as you look at this. But Philadelphia, they are 4-0, but it's not been a pretty 4-0 for Philadelphia. I do think they beat the Rams, though, in L.A.
The Rams have been a little bit of a surprise, so we'll see where they're being at home. But if the Eagles are the real thing, which I think in many ways they are, then yes, they ought to be able to win this.
Cincinnati struggling for sure, but they face the Arizona Cardinals. Both teams 1-3. The game is in Phoenix. And 3.5-point favorites for Cincinnati. The way I look at it, Dad, is at some point it has to click for Cincinnati. And Arizona, the front office at the very least, can't want to win. But Joshua Dobbs has been doing his job in Arizona. Needless to say, I'm going Cincinnati this week.
I mean, yes, Cincinnati needs to win this. You would think it won't be a problem, but you got to remember that Dallas game a couple weeks ago. So you never know if the Cardinals win this one, then you may have a lot of people jumping in the Ohio River. So we will see how that goes.
Okay. Very good. So some good games this week, some hard to watch games this week as well. We will be tuned in Monday night for Green Bay and Vegas there. As soon as I get off the air with Ryan Jackson doing the local hour Monday night, we'll turn on Green Bay and party hard into the evening. If me and Dad don't make it to Vegas, that'll be the way it works out for us there. So that's it for the NFL. I do want to remind everyone about Righteous Felon Jerky. If you want the purest jerky in the game, you got to go straight to the source. And Righteous Felon has partnered with the best natural black Angus beef producers in the land to lock up supply and guarantee the best tasting, best textured, and freshest beef jerky on the market. RighteousFelon.com. I know what the screen says, but we got a new code. You're going to use the code STOVE15, STOVE 15 at RighteousFelon.com and support the show as well as try out your new favorite jerky as well. I also tried a beef stick this week, Dad. Let me see if I can see what the flavor was. Fiery habanero, and it was indeed fiery. It kicked hard. So anyways, beef jerky there. Actually, Dad, I need to send you some. I do have some for you. I need to send you some as well, which it might be a couple weeks because I think Mom's coming down to see me possibly soon. So anyways, we'll get it to you, though, nonetheless. And by the way,
as far as the NFL, again, people doing fantasy football, you have to be aware that the buys start this week.
Yes, they do.
I think the earliest have ever started the bye weeks, and that kind of throws things a little bit in fantasy football now for a good part of the season. So, well, we'll see. People are starting to get a break. So,
yeah, it definitely changes things for fantasy football for sure. Real quick, the college football. The big game this week is the Red River rivalry. And didn't it used to be called the Red River Shootout or something?
It was, but that wasn't politically correct. So
right.
now they rival.
They'll move to the SEC. By the way, Dad, did you see the SEC came out and said horns down is not a penalty in the SEC? You can shove it in their face all you want. Both teams are 5-0. Texas and Oklahoma. Both teams 5-0. Texas is number 3. Oklahoma number 12. A big opportunity for Oklahoma here. All the pressure on Texas. Texas is a favorite by almost a touchdown in this game. So that'll be a fun one. I know we've got some Boomer Sooner fans that watch and listen to the program. So good luck to all Sooner Nation this week. But I did predict Texas goes to the playoffs this year. So I kind of need Texas to win this game in order for me to be right. Outside of that, Dad, I mean, there's games worth watching, I suppose. But let me tell you about fans in Lexington, Kentucky, where I live. They sure think they got a shot against Georgia this week because, well, Georgia didn't play well last week, and Kentucky's undefeated. Georgia's a 15-point favorite. They are both undefeated. I think Georgia just wipes the floor with Kentucky this week. I don't know how much you've paid attention to Kentucky or Georgia this year, but any thoughts on that game?
Well, I've kept up probably a little more with Georgia than I have Kentucky, and this game's at Georgia, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Kentucky will kind of get a reality check on this one. I think this will be either Georgia is not going to be as good as they've been in the past, or they'll come out and really, really run on them this week. And I would expect the Bulldogs, again, we got a lot of Bulldog fans that we know, and I think they'll be ready for this one. So,
yeah, Colorado's lost the last 2 weeks. It's taken a little bit of the shimmer off of Dion. This week they play Arizona State, so we expect them to get a win and maybe some more publicity. But it seems like, Dad, really it's the Taylor Swift effect in the NFL that has taken kind of the attention off of Deion Sanders in Colorado, at least for the time being while they're losing. But again, I think they win this week against Arizona. They're entertaining enough, and he's connecting with the young folks in the world for sure. Maybe not us old fogies, but he is connecting with the kiddos. Any other games in particular that you're interested in this week?
No, I looked at a couple, but I think teams that have had a good start, will kind of come back to reality. Missouri, are they for real? I looked at who they've beaten, so I don't know. We'll see if they can beat LSU, then they may be a factor a little bit in the SEC, but I don't think that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. If they beat LSU, it means something for sure. But to me, Mizzou just doesn't belong in the SEC. They don't fit there. Fit is the better word than belong, probably. They don't fit there. But they're ranked, and they play a ranked opponent this week, so we'll see how they shake down. Let's transition over to Major League Baseball before we wrap up. Minnesota sweeps Toronto, their first series win in quite some time. Sonny Gray with the win, the old Middle Tennessee boy. But 2-0. They did get out hit in this game today, but it doesn't matter. Minnesota advances. Texas just absolutely dominates Tampa. Both teams had been hit hard with injuries. We talked about this on Sunday night's show. Texas gets the sweep, though, and advances. Congrats to them. And they had such a good regular season. I was kind of afraid that they were going to fall apart with all the injuries coming into the playoffs, but they advanced to the next round. Milwaukee and Arizona are playing as we're doing this show. Milwaukee leads 2-1 in the 6th inning. And then Philadelphia and Miami are in the 2nd inning, I believe. 3rd inning, excuse me. And they are 0-0 as of right now also. I'm worried about Milwaukee. Obviously, if they lose tonight, it's over. They got to win. If they win tonight, they go into tomorrow's game with Wade Miley. I'm worried. I'm worried really, really badly about Milwaukee. I felt like they had a chance to come in. That news of Woodruff, though, being injured really hurt this team. I think morale wise. So, nonetheless, I think I don't know. I'm worried. I'm worried about Milwaukee. Any thoughts on the baseball playoffs to this point?
Well, one thing I was wondering about, see what you think. Do you think baseball will try to move the team out of Tampa with, poor attendance and everything and the home there? And as I was thinking about that, if they were to relocate them, boy, whoever gets them would have a team that does have a lot of talent on the team.
Yeah.
So I don't know that will happen. I know there's been talk about that, for years in some ways, but I wonder if this playoff situation doesn't highlight that a little bit. And it's been an exciting first round here. Will any of these teams be able to compete with the teams that, got the bye? I think in some cases they will. So, there'll be some momentum goes with this, and we'll see.
Yeah, so I'll start with the Tampa thing. I mean, obviously, I think there's a chance. I think if Tampa moves, Nashville makes the most sense. I know they've talked about a new stadium, and maybe that would be enough, and they'd move it to a slightly different area. So maybe that would be enough. I'm not sure, but you're definitely right. But they've been talking about Tampa moving since David Price was there. I mean, that's been a long time in the making. So at some point they will. I'm just not sure when. As for the wild card teams having success, Minnesota faces Houston. Houston was my World Series pick at the beginning of the year. Houston is so veteran oriented, guys who've been there, done that, defending champs. I mean, I think Houston is going to be hard to take down for Minnesota, but I also think that when you have that break and that bye, I think it does hurt a little bit. I think that momentum shift hurts a little bit. So maybe Minnesota can steal one and make it interesting. Texas and Baltimore, I think that series is wide open. Baltimore has been really good this year, but I mean, I don't know. Texas puts up runs. That's the one thing Texas does is they score a lot of runs. And I'm not sure if Baltimore's offense can keep up with that. At this point, I would say I would pick Baltimore and pick Houston to win, but I do think that those series are both open. On the other side of things, I think the Dodgers are beatable, whether it's Arizona or Milwaukee. I think the Dodgers are beatable this year. I think Atlanta, on the other hand, it would be tough. But you got the Phillies and Marlins who play in the East, playing each other right now. If whoever wins plays Atlanta, who's also in the East. So these are teams that know each other well, and I think Atlanta's the best team in the National League. So I think they advance to at least the NLCS and probably the World Series as well. But we'll see. We'll see. I think Philadelphia's tough. We saw that last year. Philadelphia's that team that, they're the 4 seed, but they are stacked on their roster. And their pitchers got going there, especially in the last month of the season. So I think Philadelphia has a real good shot to make a run again this year as well. But listen, I love baseball playoffs. I think they're a blast to watch. The problem that I have is I can't watch them. They got a game on in the middle of the day on network television, and then my MLB package expires come postseason time. So I can listen to them on the radio, but I cannot watch them on my television. So that kind of takes some of the fun out for me. But I think the baseball playoffs are a lot of fun to watch. It takes me back, Dad, to the 90s when the Braves and their runs and the Schmaltz and Maddox and Glavine. And I wasn't a Braves fan at all, but I remember all those games and those experiences as a kid watching those games. So I love baseball playoffs, and I really hope the Brewers can pull this off and at least get into the next round. Losing in round 1 would be really, really bad. And there's a lot of talk about Craig Counsell leaving to manage the Mets possibly next year. And then, that's just all that looming. So we need to win, and we need to win right now. All right. Anything else, Dad, before we wrap up? we lost Dad. He's actually switching over to a different device. This is a good chance to remind you about Righteous Felon Jerky. Go to righteousfelon.com. Use the code STOVE15, STOVE15. When you do that, Righteous Felon knows that you're a listener of this program. It gives us support, helps us out, and we really appreciate it. I want to let you know about the other shows going on this week. Monday, next week, I guess. Monday, Ryan Jackson, EKU defensive lineman, joins me. We will be talking EKU football, previewing the upcoming game. They're off this Saturday, so we'll be previewing the game, have a guest on there with us as well. And Dad will be back with me on Wednesday as well as we continue to talk through Major League Baseball playoffs, NFL news, and college football highlights as well. Follow us on social media at Sports Stove on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for watching the program today. And until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.